All right, welcome. You guys have no idea how long it's taken me to get on a stage with Red Hat. Let me introduce myself. I am the general manager for the C&E business. That stands for Cloud and Enterprise. If that means nothing to you, it really is the third pillar of Microsoft's business. Everybody knows Windows and Surface. Everybody knows Office. Hopefully, you guys have heard of all the other products you generally don't see in front of an end user. That's what I own for Asia Pacific. Windows Server, SQL, System Center, Azure. But I haven't always been at Microsoft, even though I've been there for 17 years. Before I joined Microsoft, I worked at a company called Sun Microsystems, doing a lot of Oracle installs on Solaris. Before that, this is going to rewind the clock a little bit, I worked at Intel. Before that, I worked at a company called VA Linux. And before that, I was a founding member of the UCLA Linux user group. Yes, I have actually been an open source person from the beginning. So I will tell you that I was a secret supporter of open source during the Ballmer days. And I felt like I was set free when Satya joined. Little known facts here. The company has actually always, at the engineering, at the product level, been pushing this front. Little known fact is that when Satya joined, it took us 6 months to release Office for iPad. You can't build Office for iPad in 6 months. The teams have always thought this way, right? A year ago, I was looking at working with our Azure engineering team, and my eyes opened up. Half the machines were PCs, you would expect that. The other half were Macs. Half of them were actually running Linux on their hardware. Dual booting Windows, dual booting Mac, dual booting even various versions of open source software. And this partnership that I've come to talk to you here about with Red Hat has been many years in the making, right? We have a special relationship with Red Hat. It is not just like any other open source vendor that we actually work with. It took us many years to work out what's a joint value proposition that we want to go align. And that's really what I want to dive a little bit deeper for you guys today, and also reinforce some of the things that I know you guys have heard today about this deep partnership that we have. But I'll start off with common stats about the public cloud, right? On the left-hand side, this is actually Red Hat's own report. This is really looking at why are people moving to the cloud, right? And the Asia-Pacific region and Asia in general is a little bit different. If I were to be honest, it's a little bit behind, right? Because if you think about things like cost and agility, in areas where you have high labor cost, you kind of get pushed to the cloud much faster. So the US, the Europe, more developed countries, over the last 4 years, the cloud has just taken off. I spent the last 6 years of my Microsoft life working in the US subsidiary, taking Azure, and I feel safe in saying this. It was a $36 million business 4 to 5 years ago. It was nothing against our multi-billion-dollar Windows business. So if you look at where Microsoft is, even today, more than half of our cloud business from a C&E perspective is actually going to be growing on Azure. That is crazy. 4 years, right? We are still doubling our business year over year, more than doubling. And this is my favorite stat. Our open source, more than tripling. And we're not done yet. I actually have a dedicated person on my team, Sindhu, who's somewhere here in the crowd. I can't see. Way in the back. I see a hand up here behind the lights, who does nothing but open source on my team. Nothing but open source, right? And that role has existed for the last 3 years because of our commitment to open source and to cloud. On the right-hand side, you actually see IDC's report, and I know they're here as well. And this is about the journey that companies are on, right? Some people are still saying, no cloud for me, right? That's the tiny little cloud down way at the top. And people who are progressing, saying, hey, I'm thinking about it, but I don't know. All the way down to the bottom, that 59.3% are people who are already using the cloud for more than 1 or 2 projects. That actually means they're serious, they're thinking about it, and I actually think this fiscal, for us, we run in 6-month offsets, for FY19, we're actually going to experience the highest cloud growth that we've been seeing in the history of Asia Pacific, because this is the year that customers have started coming to us out of nowhere. I'm not selling the cloud anymore. They're calling us saying, wow, my CEO just said, in 3 years, I don't want to have all these random things saying around. Tell me which data centers I have to keep. Tell me which assets I can get off my book, because I'm an airline. I really don't want to have 5 data centers floating about, right? That represents a massive, massive, massive opportunity. Not just from a transition from on-premises or on-premises private clouds or virtualization to a mix and hybrid to public cloud, but it opens up brand new opportunities, right? It's not a zero-sum game. This region especially is the region, and actually Indonesia, the country that you're in right now, I don't know if you know this, it's the #1 country in the world for number of mobile devices, hours spent on a mobile device, and number of applications used in a day. It makes sense. Thousands of islands, the way you get connectivity is through cell towers, and the way you experience the world is going to be through that mobile phone, and probably the highest percentage and number of millennials, right? The population here supports that. Those are all the things that actually are pushing and leading customers to the cloud. Now, a little bit about Microsoft and the cloud and how we think about this. This, again, is an IDC study that actually talks about why this is more profitable for you, right? I get this question a lot from partners. Wow, moving to the cloud, I got to invest so much more, I got to retool, I have to digitally transform maybe my own organization. I'm used to selling these products, maybe making some money on deployment, and then I'm out. Maybe I'll leave somebody behind for support, right? Moving to the cloud, wow, how do I even make money? Am I going to go through margin pressure? Is everybody going to make it through this transformation? And I'm here to tell you the answer is unequivocally yes. We know how to do that. We can help you, because we've done it ourselves, right? If you rewind the clock, not that long ago, we used to sell boxed software. Heck, even my business, I kid you not, there were days when we had a box of Windows Server and a box of management software that you had to go to a store to buy, and we shipped you a CD. Yes, it cost $6,000, but it was for enterprise software, right? Those days are gone. We don't even really look at that number anymore, right? We have successfully transitioned to a business where it is cloud, we deliver our software dynamically, and we license our software. And this is the thing that why Microsoft's margins, if you look, have actually not decreased. We've been able to continually be profitable even when we've gone to a full cloud model. That's miraculous, right? Adobe went through the same exercise. We know how to do this. I'm not saying it's easy, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And it's quite simply this. The cloud, the innovation that it allows, is really a service model. It's a managed service model. It's an ongoing relationship model, and it's a service delivery model that's very much like a utility bill, right? Once you're running all of these services in the cloud, you don't turn them off. No one turns the electricity off. No one stops using natural gas. No one walks away and says, I don't need electricity, I don't need electricity, I don't need water, I don't need gas, right? And if you're able to build your business up as a margin to provide value on top of Red Hat, on top of Microsoft, on top of the technology platforms that we provide, that's how you make ongoing money. And it's an ongoing stream of revenue. But yes, you do have to invest first, right? This is why, in this study, you see that when your business is more than 50% cloud, you get a very, very predictable stream, and you get to participate in that growth that I talked to you about, right? On Azure, that's more than doubling every year, and it has been for the last few years. On open source on Azure, more than tripling. And you're not going to be alone, because with Azure, we talk about it not in the context of just a public cloud, like a lot of our public competitors. We have a long history. You'll notice that I own both the on-premises and the cloud business, right? They're one and the same. We We have a very, very unique viewpoint on this. And I don't talk about hybrid in the sense of saying, oh yeah, I can connect my on-premises servers and data to the cloud. It goes much, much, much further than that, okay? That's call it level 0 of hybrid. It means, yes, I can connect to the cloud, but guess what? So can everybody else. We have taken the effort to design our APIs, design our management structure, design our hypervisor such that there is symmetry. And the reason we're doing that is to help enable a lot of our customers that are on premises to get to the cloud and not have to pay such a high cost on retraining, on learning new technologies, learning new APIs, and learning new methodologies. And it's not just the Microsoft framework. It's meant to be open. One of my favorite products is something called operations management. And as you heard from the previous speaker, this is part of the shift. You have to get good with DevOps, with operations, with quality control, with controls, with certifications, right? But that product, or management software, can hook onto on-premises, hooks into Azure, it'll hook into AWS, it'll hook into VMware, right? No matter what, no matter where your machines, your services, your applications sit, our goal is to help you create that single view and help our customers and our joint customers migrate to the cloud there. I don't really have to tell you that we're a leading cloud platform. We are the clear number 2 behind AWS, and we're growing still at more than twice the rate right now, trying to catch up. But this is the last piece that I want to share with you that not most people don't know about. In the last year since Satya joined, it really has been a massive, massive transition in the company. When we hire architects now, it's part of the job description. It doesn't say Windows, actually. We're trying to hire people who have open source experience, right? MySQL, Postgres, Ansible, Red Hat, you name it, right? Those are the architects that we're actually hiring and looking for right now, so that you can actually talk to a customer about their entirety of their business and their infrastructure. The open source leadership aspect is not just about our partnership with Red Hat, which we love, but also the fact that we've also trained our own developers to say, you know what, there's a lot of technologies we can actually open source. So we're a massive contributor, actually, as it turns out, to GitHub. If you don't trust me, go there and search it yourself. We publish all this stuff. Thousands of our engineers actually just publish code and open source it to enable more of that open connectivity. So it enables you to build it the way that you want with the code, and actually with all the AI things that are happening right now, that's part of our initiative. The IP that's actually created by even Microsoft engineers and some of our services folks and even some of our partners, we're putting up on GitHub as well. It just so happens now we are trying to acquire GitHub as a commitment to our developers and to open source in general. And that is really just fitting in with Satya's vision that Microsoft can become a much larger player in the generic technology space, right? And not be bound by the old days. Now, for those of you who've not partnered with Microsoft deeply before, or maybe you work in the part of the partner group that works purely on open source, I want to tell you a little bit about the benefits of partnering with Microsoft. We have an investment model with our partners since we grew up in day one, from the first days of the company, as a partner-aligned company. Business investment. I actually control a multi-million-dollar budget where we offset the costs of systems integrators for our joint customers. That's right, you become a vendor of Microsoft, we cut a check, and we say, hey, if you're gonna go deploy or move this workload into the cloud, I wanna help you, right? I can give back a relative percentage of the business deal back to the partner. This is not to the customer, this is actually a check to the partner, right? So we have that type of business investments. Practice building. Actually, Arnaud, who's one of our cloud architects, is also sitting somewhere in the crowd here. He actually is an architect that is purely dedicated to partner. He will go to customer with you as a way to be training wheels, if you will, with us to show the way on the first or second type of deals. But if you're serious about building your practice, we have architects that do nothing but help you do this type of integration, right? We can walk through how Red Hat on Azure, Red Hat on Azure Stack, Red Hat even on premises running SQL can be a part of your portfolio. Co-marketing. We reserve this really for our biggest and best partners. I'm here at Red Hat. We're a platinum sponsor. We obviously invest in our partnerships in these cases. And we do the same, obviously, for our biggest partners to find our joint customers. IUR, it's a Microsoft acronym for internal use rights. Basically, if you're a Microsoft partner, just like MSDN, we hand you tons and tons of software for your own development purposes, for your own training purposes. That includes Azure, Visual Studio, which runs on Linux, by the way. We have VS Code now, for those of you who don't know, on Linux, on Mac, as well as use rights for a lot of our infrastructure and even Office products, right, for use in your own company. And last year, actually, we announced that we expanded those rights to many, many more of your partner employees. Now, co-selling. This is probably the one biggest benefit that if you're serious and you get big on Microsoft, aligned with Red Hat, this is probably the most important piece here. It's a little known fact that even today, Microsoft actually has the largest enterprise sales field in the world. And actually, in Asia, it's the largest bar none. It's quite easy to understand why. We've been here in this market forever, right? The first products that showed up, Windows and Office, and they've been here ever since, which means we actually have infrastructure, offices, businesses, and enterprise salespeople in every country you can imagine. We're already there, right? And as we've shifted the company more and more to the cloud from the Office and Azure perspective, those same sellers, those same technologists have made that similar shift. Now, this is the one thing that most people fail to understand. My sellers get credit for selling partner IP and partner services. It's built into our comp models. Our sales guys have it in their quota. So this is the craziest thing ever. We had a great year in APAC. We haven't announced earnings, so I can't say anything. But I can tell you that we had a great year. And we only made it because we had very, very good sales guys that were actually selling, now get this, SAP. They were selling SAP on Azure, right? Running on Linux. They're like, well, okay, there's two partner solutions there, deployed by an SI, which had lots of experience on SAP and open source. Guess what? My data seller got credit for that deal. My data seller got credit for that deal. That's just an example. We do the same thing with Cloudera. We do the same thing with Red Hat. We have a tight list of partners that we work very, very closely with. Now, this opens up all sorts of possibilities, right? No longer do you think about competing with your own solutions, because if you're that seller at Microsoft and you're that enterprise salesperson, you're no longer trying to necessarily push MySQL or Postgres against a SQL. Because I can tell you, it doesn't matter. You have a data bucket. You can sell SQL if that's what the customer wants. If the customer wants MySQL and Postgres, you go and help sell that, right? And 100% of these open source deals, I can pretty much guarantee you, have a partner involved. 100% of them, okay? That's tremendously powerful. That takes away the competitive angles, and it shows you, again, how we're engaging with our partners, engaging with customers and the marketplace, such that we remove some of that conflict. And lastly, on the incentives. Just to prove the model out, we also provide some of that utility bill back as a margin to the partner, right? So we call this the Azure consumption benefit. And so if a customer is using $1,000 of Azure a month, we kick back a percentage of that back to the partner who is the partner of record, who did that deployment, right? Who created that workload. That's been in our partner mix for the last couple of years. And this is also another way that we provide support to our partner ecosystem. So you can see we actually have many, many, many levers that are all about trying to build up partners such as you guys, both for ISVs, for systems integrators, for managed service providers, and obviously for the betterment of all of our customers. I talked quite a bit about this already, but this just goes to show every logo that you see up there, we've actually worked with these vendors in the open source world. It's not just with Red Hat, although we love them the best. We have tremendous partnerships everywhere, right? But Red Hat is special. because of a couple of different things. It's special because, number one, we are the only major cloud provider out there that has aligned with Red Hat Enterprise for support, right? This is very, very unique. We announced it, I want to say almost 2 years ago. Feels like ancient history now. But you can actually come to Microsoft if you're running Red Hat and have a single support call. You no longer get the finger point. Oh, that's not us. Operating systems, go there. Oh, infrastructure, sure, we'll take that call, right? This is very, very unique to Red Hat. And for an enterprise customer, like you heard, who cares about compliance, who cares about certification, who cares about the fact that I'm writing a very big check to some vendors, I want one throat to choke. On the back end, we've partnered very, very deeply with Red Hat to provide that level of support, and this is unique. We don't have that with other providers that are out there. This is where it starts getting even more differentiated. Now, you guys have heard a lot about OpenShift, about the container platform. I'm not going to dive too deep into that, but this is showing how far our partnership has gone. We've announced that we actually are building a PaaS service for OpenShift, running in Azure, right? It's going to be a while before it'll be global and before it's GA, but that just shows you the commitment. We are so strong at that commitment, we've already announced it, right? It's in preview, we're working on it. We're running Red Hat software in Azure. If you guys haven't heard, this is the most amazing thing I've seen in a very, very long time. SQL Server is actually our biggest infrastructure product. We've been working on this, again, for years. It was ported to Linux. Not just ported to Linux, but no one really seriously runs SQL without a contract of support, right? So the combination of SQL on Red Hat Linux is a beautiful one. You're taking the largest revenue, highest unit share relational database, and we've opened it up to all the open source platforms out there. And especially with Red Hat, you again get support end to end, right? So super advanced features that you would normally only see like in an Oracle, right? Encrypted rows, maintaining the ability to have massive scale with support. And I have an amazing story here. I can't mention the customer, but Indonesia actually holds the title for the largest SQL on Linux deployment. Indonesia. I don't know how long that title will stand. It's been a few months now, but it's true. We actually beat out Oracle and Teradata for a massive, massive deal here in, multi-million-dollar deal here in Indonesia for a data warehousing project. It was SQL on Linux, Red Hat Enterprise, and it was all done by a partner with Microsoft and Red Hat support, right? I would have never thought there would be a day that we would be taking out Teradata and Oracle data warehouse deployments, right? But it's happened, and it happened in Indonesia. Last piece. Now, you guys are probably very familiar with this. It was an unfortunate SAP deal to basically say, hey, we're only going to support SUSE in this part of the world. But guess what? That's expired. This is a tremendous opportunity to just clean up those servers that are running SAP. I can tell you SAP on Microsoft and on Azure is one of our biggest growing areas. That's one of the first and big, easy workloads that are mission critical to move into the cloud, right? Whether it's on premises or maybe you had it on a physical machine and its performance is slow, moving it into a cloud environment, we're seeing this really, really, really pick up. So much so that actually it's becoming a dedicated scenario. We're going to have sellers that do nothing but sell SAP on Microsoft in FY19. So just as a quick recap, support for IaaS, right? That's been there for a while. Support for PaaS, that's coming, and it's a tremendous investment that we're making, and we're going to grow in the next few years. Not only that, but also on Azure Stack, that's what you can do today, right? We've taken all the software that we can run in Azure, made it available to run it in private, government, financial institution, or even hosters. We have some partnership with hosters and MSPs that are actually running Azure Stack in the countries and regions where we don't have a data center. And then lastly, obviously, the co-located support that you can get. And this is amazing because we have a similar deal signed with SAP, right? Imagine that, SAP, Red Hat, Microsoft. You can call one phone number. I think I have to point it this way. There it goes. And just to close, I just want to reiterate, we've always been a partner company, right? This is a stat that if you're going to join us at Inspire next week, that you're going to see on stage as well, right? We just refreshed it, so this is actually the first place you're seeing it. $95 billion of revenue through partner. That is, it's basically the biggest chunk of revenue that Microsoft does, right? One of my favorite stats, partner co-sell in FY18. That's that partnership I was telling you about. We register when deals are actually done through third-party, or I'll call it non-Microsoft IP. We look at all of that and say, our sales guys, our account team should still be compensated on that stuff because it's the right thing to do for our customers, right thing to do for partners, right? And you see all those stats there about the growth of our partners, about the growth of our cloud, and actually, you actually see it's code. I apologize. I tried to eliminate most of the acronyms. ACR, RBI in the upper right-hand corner that you actually see there. That's the credit. That's the credit that was given to our sales guys. $225 million worth of third-party credit. ACR stands for Azure Consumed Revenue. Basically means it's people using our utility bill in Azure. But all of that was actually driven by our partners. And RBI stands for revenue-based incentives, i.e. quota retirement, right? You do not see this from any other partner, any other cloud out there. So, in closing, I just wanted to call out, I love Arnaud's email address that he's been able to achieve, the ambassador at Microsoft. Remember, he's our cloud architect who actually helps our partners get to the cloud and can talk about practices, how you build those practices, and he's a technologist, right? We've got Ben here in the front row here, and he basically is working for Rebecca, who is our partner lead in the APAC region, and Ben can talk to you about how to become a better Microsoft partner and just expand and double up the opportunity that you actually have. And lastly, we have a booth here. If you have any questions, come on down. We've got staffing from us and a partner, Crayon, who's also there, and they pulled together a little package. They're a services provider, so if you're a smaller partner that says, wow, that sounds great, Mike, but man, that sounds like a lot of work, are there other partners I can work with that will maybe give me more tools and insight and training so that I can start doing my first, second type of deals there? Come on down to the booth. So in closing, thank you very much. Thank you for being a part of realizing a dream of mine, getting on stage at a Red Hat conference. I've waited 17 years for this at Microsoft. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of the day.